Conservation Commission meeting for Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021. I still don't see Chris, but we do have a quorum, so we'll start. Is there anything to come before the Conservation Commission this evening that's not on the agenda? Hearing none, let's go to the agenda. The first item on the agenda is a request for determination of applicability on 16 3rd Avenue to replace retaining walls. Chris, do you have?
I've got the legal notice, Mr. Chairman. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general laws, chapter 30A and section 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, the town of Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a remote public hearing on Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021 at 7 p.m. to consider the following application. Under the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a virtual public meeting for a request for determination of applicability filed by Scott Collier. The applicant wishes to replace retaining walls at 16 3rd Avenue. Work will take place within 100 feet of a wetland, Mr. Chairman.
Is the applicant here or his representative?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, Ms. Collier, do you want to we've got a good package here, but you want to just take us through what you propose to do at this site?
Certainly. So there is an existing timber retaining wall at this homeowner's site, and it's going to be replaced in accordance with some engineering drawings by Martel Engineering. I believe we submitted those to you. If not, we can. But we're going to be basically replacing this timber retaining wall with an Allen block retaining wall system.
Is this one wall or two walls?
It's two individual walls. There's one retaining wall that's lower, and then there's an upper retaining wall as well.
Okay.
They're both existing, the timber walls. There is an existing lower wall and an existing upper walls.
The existing wood walls appear to have holes in them, I take it, to allow water to flow out in rain events. Is that correct?
That's correct.
How is that accommodated with the lock system?
There will be a drainage system. The actual specifics, I have to confirm with I would have to confirm with Scott, but I know for a fact that there will be a drainage system built into this wall.
Do you know which way the water will be directed? Will it be directed off to the sides, or will it come through the walls the way it does now?
That I'm not privy to. I would have to confirm that. Go ahead.
No, it's just that, I mean, down from the walls, you're going to Willis Drive and then to the pond.
Yes.
And although I assume that no more, if it came through the walls, there would not be any more water than is coming through the walls right now, probably.
No.
Is that a fair assumption?
I would agree with that assumption, yes.
So you don't know whether the water is diverted to the side or through the wall. Okay.
I can confirm that.
Is it above between the house and the upper wall? Is the grade going to change?
No.
It's be the same grade that exists?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We've got to recommend you're going to have erosion control at the foot of each of the stone walls. Is that correct?
There will be erosion control. I don't know. Is it required that they be on each wall, or is it one erosion control at the base?
Katie, I think it's probably the base. Is that correct?
Yes. Unless it's recommended otherwise.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah, I think at the base,
okay. And what's
along the edge of the roadway would be sufficient.
and what's the construction sequence? The upper wall first or the lower wall first?
It probably will be the lower wall first. And then because the materials will be brought in from the house side so as to not impact the area within the erosion control. So we would probably do the lower wall first and then continue with the upper wall.
And then one last question from me. Do either of the areas have to be stabilized during construction so they don't collapse?
You mean the timber wall?
Well, you're gonna probably take out the timber walls with an excavator, and then you're gonna have some pretty steep loams and dirt there. Are you gonna have to stabilize that so in a rain event it doesn't wash out during construction?
As far as excavation is concerned, again, I can confirm with Scott. They're going to try to do it where there's going to be the most minimal impact as possible. If there's going to be a rain event that's projected, I don't think that they would even proceed with construction.
Does that mean the homeowner probably won't do the work until the summertime when it's drier?
Yeah, I don't know the schedule as of yet. A lot of this is dependent upon you folks, but I know in a situation like this, it's going to be weather dependent.
Okay, questions of the commission. Chris Garahan?
No questions, Dave. I mean, it looks like it's going to be a big improvement, so I certainly would be favorable at this point.
Mark Gibbs?
I guess one of the questions is, the question was already posed, but you couldn't give an answer on, is the water that's going to come out of the bottoms of those walls, is that going to sheet across the street, cause a problem during the winter? Because now it looks like it's pretty much absorbed all the way down the hill there with no direct discharge.
I can confirm that and then get back to you on that. Would that be an acceptable option as to verification of the water diversion?
Sure.
Well, it's not likely that we would approve this if there are a number of outstanding questions. We would just continue the hearing to
Okay.
get the answers. I think Mark's question is a fair one. We've had there's been some good historical examples and events along Willis Drive, because this is not the only lot that's got a very steep embankment. And what we don't want is water being diverted and sheeting off Willis Drive, particularly in the colder weather. Although in the summertime as well, because Willis Drive is not very wide to begin with. Mark, anything else?
I don't know if the other one is our jurisdiction on fencing on these tiered. Is that something we get involved in, or we leave that up to?
You mean for safety reasons, in case people don't? I mean, it's a fair question to ask, but I don't think it's within our jurisdiction. Is there a building permit required on these fences?
Yeah, I would think so. The structure.
Katie, do you know if safety reasons are going to, fencing is going to be looked at?
They have to be a certain, retaining walls have to be a certain height, I believe, to trigger a building permit. I think this one does, because I was working with Vera in the building department for this process. So I'm pretty sure they will have to go through building, and they'll have to meet whatever requirements through building.
Yeah, I think there's a certain height where it needs to have some kind of barricade up with a, fence or whatever. And I think it's going to be a good project because obviously it needs repair. So.
Okay, well, we can ask, that can be an open question. John Swenson, do you have questions? Did you go away, John?
John, you're on mute.
John, you got any questions? You're on mute, John. John, you're on mute. How do you talk to him if he's on mute? Katie, can you send
He won't. He's got to get his wife. He won't know how to do this. He won't know how to do this.
Lower left-hand corner,
He's
John.
got to get his wife.
Down here.
There
Down
she is.
Susie.
We want to hear him. Mute.
No.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
Thanks,
Hey, you
Susie.
said they'd be able to hear me. I'm looking at the plan. It does show a railing and fencing on one of the plans.
Oh, it does.
Yeah. And
Oh, okay.
usually these walls are backed up with stone. You know, the ones I've seen, filter paper and stone. But, so the railing and fencing is on the plan.
Okay, good. Anything else, John?
No, it looks like a good plan. A good packet and a good plan.
Okay,
A lot safer.
Carl Bischoff?
Just curious how long you think this will take, start to finish, once you start, roughly?
I want to say, again, I can confirm this with Scott, and my apologies for not having all of these answers off the top of my head. I want to say a 2 to 4 week time period, but again, I can talk to Scott and we can narrow that down a little bit further if you require me
But
to do so.
it's not 3 months, okay.
No.
Yeah, okay. That's all I got.
Okay.
Yeah,
Billy,
it looks good.
Billy Vines?
No, I have no problem with this. I've built these walls before. This is all pea stone behind the wall, behind the blocks, and filter fabric to keep the the fines getting into the stone. So it drains itself.
So
That's what keeps the wall from falling over, being pushed out in frost, because it
right.
self-drains.
Right.
So I have no problem with this thing.
Katie, do you have any other comments?
Nope.
Are there any questions or comments on this application from the audience? Is that a cat?
Yeah.
That's Mark's cat. Okay, hearing none. I'll entertain a motion to issue a -3 determination with the condition that erosion controls be placed at the toe of the slope along the roadway edge and remain until the area is fully stabilized.
Second.
Seconded by Billy Vines. Is there a, there's a motion by Billy Vines. Is there a second?
I'll second Billy's motion, and I think we just need maybe one more just condition around. I'd like to see confirmation, at least to our agent, that there'll be no adverse, drainage impact. Mark had that question that he had. I'd like to get that.
Onto Willis Drive.
Yeah, onto Willis Drive, yeah.
Is that okay, Katie? So we'll approve this subject to you getting.
Yeah, that works.
Okay, so this is subject to the conservation agent's determination that there'll be no adverse runoff onto Willis Drive.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, Chris Garahan,
Aye.
Mark Gibbs,
Aye.
John Swenson,
Aye.
Carl Bischoff,
Aye.
Billy Vines,
Aye.
Dave McLaughlin, and I. Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a amended notice of intent for 24 to 32nd Lane for a new single-family dwelling. I don't think that requires the reading of a notice. Is that correct?
Dave, just to
Yeah.
be, but let me do
It
the
does.
notice anyway.
It
All right,
does.
go ahead.
Sorry. Under the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a virtual public meeting on March 2nd, 2021 at 7 p.m. for an amended notice of intent filed by Mr. Patrick Larkin. The applicant wishes to construct a single-family home at 24-30 Second Lane. Work will take place within 100 feet of a wetland. Mr. Chairman.
Okay, before we start, there's some open issues here. The application is to request a single-family home, but there is some discussion of a pavilion. Is that part of this application, or is that going to be a separate application?
Hello, yeah, I was looking to have that as part of the application, if I could.
Is there a reason the notice doesn't state that?
I don't know.
All right. There has been some, in one of the last meetings, granted, we ended it and continued this, or ended it rather. There was some discussion about the plans that another or one or more other organizations in Chelmsford, I think it was either the planning board and or the Board of Appeals, that those plans were different from the plans that the Conservation Commission had seen. The plans that we have before us tonight are the plans that we will act on, no other plans. So if there's anything floating around that's different, then that has to be addressed at another meeting by another board. But we will act on what we have in front of us tonight. Mr. Larkin, do you want to take us through what you're going to do now, or if you've got a representative that would like to do that?
Yeah, so in the last meeting, we had a proposal to keep the building that was located at 32nd Lane and to do an addition to that particular structure. This new proposal is to raise that building at 32nd Lane and also to raise the building at 28 Second Lane, which is shown on the plan. And the new location for the proposed dwelling of 32nd Lane is now outside the 50-foot no-build zone in its entirety, along with a proposed deck, which is also outside the 50-foot zone in its entirety. So the new structure proposal is outside the 50-foot no-build zone. Well, obviously, we have to get permission to work within the zone to tear down and remove the buildings that are located within the 0 to 50-foot zone. There also is a proposal for a walkway to the side of this structure. The building now is over 50 feet to the 51 feet to the deck, and then another 16 feet beyond that from the actual pond. The driveway has obviously been shortened, which is a new area, and then we show an area where we're going to have 2 1,000-gallon concrete dry wells, along with a French drain at the end of the driveway, and the driveway will be sloped to enter into the French drain, and then the French drain would then pitch back into the 1,000-gallon concrete dry wells. So we've made significant revision here to, after having been at the last meeting, to take everything out of the 50-foot no buildable zone.
Perhaps, Mr. Larkin, perhaps what we can do is break this into two pieces, and let's see if there are any discussions about the proposed building first, and then we can talk about the other activity on the site down closer to the water in the pavilion area. Are there any other, in terms of questions, I think you addressed I think you have addressed the driveway runoff that we talked about at the last meeting. And I think there's a French drain, or there's some retention area that will take some of the runoff as well. But let me go around the commission, if I might, and see if there are questions on the proposed house. Chris Garahan?
And Mr. Chairman, no, I don't have any questions on the proposed house. I certainly, pleased to see the changes with respect to the house. So no questions.
Mark Gibbs?
I feel the same way. I don't have any questions either about the house.
Okay. John Swenson?
I don't have any questions about the house.
Okay. Carl Bischoff?
Oh, good from my side. I like this.
Okay. Billy Vines?
I'm fine, Dave. You did everything we asked him on the house.
Okay. Katie, do you have any questions on the siting and the location of the house now?
I do not have questions on the house. This is a
Okay.
permissible.
Okay, then let's talk about
activity.
let's talk about what's described as a pavilion. Mr. Larkin, can you describe to me what the pavilion is and what it's going to look like?
Yeah, so what we have here is the area that's underneath the previous house at 32nd Lane. There was a discussion in regards to if you were going to landscape that area, and if you had landscaped that area, then what was going to grow and what chemicals you'd have to put down. So instead of doing that, I was going to put down pavers on that location. So that would just remain permanent hardscape. And then the actual pavilion itself, there is a fireplace that's existing in the old house. So I was going to basically retain the old fireplace. And then I would be building a structure which would be an open air structure that would be capable of, obviously when it rains, it would keep the rain off of you, and be able to sit under that area with the fireplace that we were going to preserve.
So it would have a full roof?
Correct.
And how about any siding?
No siding. Just it would be.
But what? One pillar at each corner, 4 pillars, or however needed to hold the roof?
Correct. 4 pillars just to basically hold up the roof.
Okay. Now, do you know if this pavilion meets the town's definition of a building?
I don't know if it meets the definition of a building.
Because, as you know, the conservation regulations say that no building may be constructed within 50 feet of the wetlands. And we look to the planning board's definition of a building to address that matter. And I have never seen the term pavilion used in planning board instructions, although I will admit I'm not an expert on planning board. But we need to understand because obviously if the pavilion meets the definition of a building, then we still have the 50-foot no build issue. If it doesn't meet the definition of a building, then we can address the drainage issues around it only. So we need to get, Katie, you don't know, do you, either? Because you're not, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Under building code, under the building code, it does meet the definition of a building as far as needing a building permit for it.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but we do also have to think about the 25-foot and the 30-foot here.
I understand.
Run right through it, and flood zone.
Right. To me, there are a number of issues. One is whether or not it's a building. The other issue we need to address is the 25-foot no disturbance and the 30-foot no impervious. I don't think.
I can request that that be removed, Mr. Chair. I can request that we eliminate the pavilion and can come back to the pavilion.
Well, that's fine. I just want to tell you what the issue. That we can do that if you like. I just want to tell you. So there's the 25-foot no build. There's the 30-foot no impervious. There's a 25-foot no disturbance. I'm sorry. There's a 50-foot no build if it is in fact a building. Okay. And also you use the term impervious pavers. You would be better off, I think, if you do that, to use pervious pavers that in fact will allow water to leach into the ground.
All right.
Because that creates a runoff issue. And then in addition, there's a note in my file that says that this area is in the flood zone. And the state regulations say that if you're going to violate the floodplain, you have to create new floodplain to replace that portion that has been disturbed. So you need to understand what so if you, for example, if 16 by 20 feet were in the floodplain, you would have to create compensatory floodplain somewhere else on your lot. So those are the issues you need to think about when you proceed with the pavilion, okay?
Yes, okay.
But you're correct. If I don't have a problem with us acting on the house itself. Is that okay, Katie? Can we do that? Since the pavilion really wasn't
That's fine.
really called out. Okay. All right, let's go
Yeah,
back.
that's fine.
Let's go back a minute. Any other comments or questions on the house itself? And if any of you want to make any further comments about the pavilion, why don't you bring them up? Mr. Larkin is going to take a look at that independent of building the house. But does anyone else have any comments they want to make at this point? Chris?
Yeah, so Dave, I mean, I think from my perspective, I'd have the same questions for Mr. Larkin. I mean, if, if he was able to, modify the plan so we didn't have to do a waiver, then, I mean, I would like to be able to vote to approve this thing tonight if we didn't have any waivers attached to the plan. So I guess.
It looks as if there are no waivers required for the house itself. Is that correct? I think, Katie, that's correct, right?
So if we could, if we could,
correct.
if we could proceed tonight on that basis.
I beg your pardon. We'll have to give Mr. Larkin a waiver on the no disturb because he's going to have to get down there to take the old house down. So we will have to do that. So
yeah, and I wouldn't have any question on that. I'd be fine with that.
And fine. Mark, do you have any other questions or comments?
Just to be sure that we're not voting at all on that patio pavilion. That's
Okay,
not part of this agreement.
We'll make sure that the vote says that.
In the building is still going to be raised no matter what happens tonight.
Correct.
If we get approved, okay. No, that's I'm good with that.
John Swenson,
I'm good with it, Dave.
Carl,
Oh, no, I'm good. It's a good outcome.
Billy Vines.
I'm fine with Dave.
Mr. Larkin, how long would it take to raise the old building? Can that be done in a day?
Realistically, it's going to probably take a little longer because it's down below, and the machine's going to have to turn the material up the hill to get it up the hill. It's not like you can live load so it's probably going to take 2 to 3 days because I'm going to have to move the material twice. So I would budget myself 2 days.
You will have to put some kind of fencing around the pond side.
I'm going to put
that building because in a windy day, some of that debris could blow into the pond. Do you understand?
Yes, I do understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
And silt bags around it too, correct?
I'm sorry?
There's going to be silt bags around the excavation because there's going to be some
to make sure none of them so we'll need silt sacks around it and some kind of 4 or 5 foot fencing so that no debris from the raising ends up in the pond.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have 2 guys on site
Hey,
to
Dave,
be picking up anything that reaches the area.
Katie?
So, yeah, when you vote, you're going to vote just on the proposed site plan because the pavilion's only in the landscape plan. If you look at your plans,
Okay.
the pavilion is not in the proposed site plan. So just when you vote to approve the proposed site plan and not the landscape plan for now. So that way it'll be clear that the landscape plan did not go through.
Well, we don't, and the rest of the land, I mean, the trees that he calls out are outside of our jurisdiction anyhow. He's planting some blue spruce and evergreen.
Some of them are in the 100 foot.
Yeah. I mean, we want to be able to allow him to do the tree landscaping within our jurisdiction.
Well,
I don't want to, he wouldn't,
Well,
shouldn't
then
have
we
to,
should ask for a revised landscape plan
I like that idea. We should get a
For now.
revised landscape plan.
for now. You know, revise the landscape
just taking the pavilion
and
part of the
just approve the
landscaping
site
plan
plan.
off of it. Do you understand that, Mr. Larkin? So
Yes.
we want to be able, we want to be able to allow you to do the landscaping as well as the building, but we need to carve out the pavilion, which is in the landscape plan. So if you can provide us with just a revised landscape plan that does not have the pavilion in it, that
Yes.
would be satisfactory. Okay. Let me
Dave,
open.
Dave,
Yes?
his wall repairs are part of that plan also, right? So he can do his work on repairing the wall.
Well, I would think that, yeah, I mean, the wall, if I assume the wall work is.
That's on the site plan.
Okay, I just want to make sure he can do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let me,
Yeah.
are there any questions? I'm sorry, Katie, anything else? No. Are there any questions or comments from the audience? And since there's so many names here,
Hey, Dave?
Katie, can you control this? Yeah, Chris?
Dave, Chris here, just one more thing. And I know we're still going to get public input, but we talked before about having some conditions around no chemical fertilizers close to the pond and in keeping a 25-foot kind of natural vegetated area between the pond and the site.
Yeah, that was on the landscape plan. That was a notation on the landscape plan.
Very good, Mr. Larkin. Good.
Okay. If anyone wants to raise a question or comment, if they could, I guess what you do is you wave your hand somehow and we'll recognize you. Miss or Mr. Rivard?
Miss
Miss Rivard, I apologize.
Sorry, I have my hair pulled back.
No, and you're far away from the camera. I apologize.
Am I? Well, you don't want me for closer.
No, don't say that.
You've addressed my concerns pretty much. So I had two questions, but now if I understand it right, you've taken the landscaping plan off there. So this is not the time for me to ask about the blue spruce.
No, what Mr. Rivard is going to submit a separate landscaping plan that does not have the pavilion on it, but has all the other points that were mentioned in the plan he submitted. Yes.
And then will you have another conservation meeting to review?
We will approve. I'm sorry. We will vote on the house, and then we will continue so we can address the landscaping plan.
Okay, and the pavilion.
Well, or it may not show up on the next landscaping plan. That may be even later.
If the pavilion does show up, in terms of the notice of intent, will there be another notice of intent given to the abutters about the pavilion, because they were not prepared this time for that, to discuss that?
Yeah, yes, it will be.
Absolutely.
Okay. And my other question, and I don't know if this is landscaping or conservation, but in the original, let me see what it's called, abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, way back when this was all started. The applied ecological sciences identified, excuse me, my voice is going, identified a seasonal and saturated isolated vegetation wetland basin, which is behind this proposed house, very close to this proposed house. And at the time, I don't think conservation chose to protect that, so I'm wondering what happens to that basin with the construction so near it, because there is a 12-foot drop in that area.
Do you have the plans in front of you?
Yes, I do. I have the landscaping plans only.
Can you direct us to the area you're talking about?
Are you looking at the landscaping plans?
So
if you look at the elevation marks behind the house and to the right, so right behind the second tree from the right in there, you'll see huge elevation drop. I think it's a 12-foot drop right there, there's a basin there that everybody who's lived there tells me that it's a seasonal, it gets water in it every year. So I'm wondering how, I see the retaining walls Mr. Larkin has planned, so I don't know if that remediates that or protects that basin, or how do you protect that basin with the construction?
I think the first question is, does the basin need to be protected? Was it, Katie, do you remember if we called it, was it called out as a wetland delineation on the ANRAD?
I think it was isolated, but I thought the commission determined it was too small.
Yeah, but do you remember
be
the size? Do you
jurisdictional.
remember the size? By any
No,
chance?
no, I can't remember the size.
Yeah, 'cause I don't think we did not spend a
No.
lot of time on it, and when we were out, when some of us were out on the site, I think we did look at it. So the answer to your question was, there is an area of wetlands that are isolated that we do not believe are significant to wetland protection. Is that
So does that get protected at all during the construction phase?
no?
No. Okay.
Any,
I just wanted to remark that I'm very, very happy to see that the house is outside 50-foot no build site.
Okay, thank you.
To go
Are there
back
any-
to go back to your question about does it get protected? It will, because he's proposed his erosion control to wrap around the whole site. So
So
there's
that is-
erosion control barrier in between the.
So that during
And the basin.
construction, that would protect
So-
that area, Ms. Rivard.
All right, thank you. My other questions pertain to the pavilion, so I will hold off on those. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions from the audience on this application to construct the house on Second Lane? Yes, Mr. Hay.
There's
Did I pronounce that correctly?
You did. That's very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's all been addressed here tonight, but I just wanted to voice my concern that I know it's not being discussed here today, but the development plan for the land that is directly uphill, the 12 feet from where Ms. Rivard was just speaking of, is likely to cause considerable runoff erosion and chemical runoff, rainwater erosion and chemical runoff from the properties a mere few feet away. And I believe the committee asked for a rain garden plan a couple of meetings ago back in November. So I just wanted to voice that thought that there's a significant amount of effluent that may wind up in the lake as a result of some of the plans that are underway.
The rain garden discussion was pertaining to the house itself that was being built, not to any additional construction off the house up towards Parkerville Road. Is your concern about runoff from the lot from Parkerville Road down to Hart Pond?
All that water funnels in one direction, and
All
it's
right,
Mr. Larkin's property.
So we're not hearing tonight any activity up there. When a person decides they want to develop that property, and right on this sketch there are four houses on it. It may be outside the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, which is 100 feet from the wetlands. But our concern would be, even though those lots were outside the 100 feet, that activity on those sites affect within the 100 foot. So we would take an interest in what the runoff from that project how the runoff from that project would affect Hart Pond.
Fair enough.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we want to have two special conditions, or consider two special conditions, Chris. One was that that chemical fertilizers not be used on the site. Right, and what was the second one, Chris?
That we maintain a 25-foot natural vegetated stay between the pond.
25-foot natural
Yeah.
vegetation between the pond, Hart Pond itself and the site and the activity on the site, correct?
Right.
So what I'll do is, Katie, what's the language you want in the vote? To entertain a vote to issue an order of conditions with two special conditions, just stated, for for the site plan for 24 Second Lane, but not for the landscaping plan.
Yeah, we
I mean,
should have a condition that a revised landscaping. We need a revised landscaping plan.
all right.
So that
Well, let's make that a second
should
vote.
be a condition that I receive that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you have to waive the
So the
25
third,
foot
the third
for the demo
condition,
too.
the third condition would be a revised landscaping plan be submitted to the conservation agent. So I'll entertain a motion to issue an order of conditions for 24 Second Lane without the landscaping plan. And there be three special conditions. One is no lawn and landscaping within 25 feet of, 25 feet of Hart Pond, and that chemical fertilizers not be on the site. And the third one is that a revised landscaping plan will be submitted to the conservation agent. Is that clear to everyone? So did somebody want to say something?
Oh, I just wanted to make sure, but the public gets to see the landscaping plan at some point.
It will be the same minus the pavilion. It's going to be the same plan without the pavilion.
The pavilion will address your issue, ma'am.
Okay. And
Okay.
and the retaining wall along the water, I believe Mr. Larkin assured us that that was going to be manually repaired, not machinery.
No,
I think he said you wouldn't need machinery to do that. I was holding that off for the landscaping.
Yes, it'll be manually. A mason will do the work.
Okay, thank you.
So I will entertain that motion that I described. Chris?
Dave, I'll make a motion to that extent, and just for a little further clarification that the landscaping plan that is submitted will be to our agent's satisfaction.
Okay. Is there a second to Chris's motion?
Second.
Second by Billy Vines. Any further discussion? All in favor? Chris Garahan?
Aye.
Mark Gibbs?
Aye.
John Swenson?
Aye.
Carl Bischoff?
Aye.
Bill Vines?
Aye.
Dave McLaughlin? Aye. Done. Thank you.
We have to do the waiver, don't we, Dave?
Yes,
I'm sorry?
we need a waiver for the demo.
And I will entertain a motion to waive the 25-foot no disturbance for the activity along, I think it's for the wall renovation, correct?
And to remove the house.
The cabin has to be removed, yes.
And to remove the old house, correct?
2 houses.
2 houses.
Okay, yeah, right.
Move.
I'll make that, I'll second Billy's motion.
Everyone understand what we're doing?
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion of this motion? All in favor? Chris Garahan,
Aye.
Mark Gibbs,
Aye.
John Swenson,
Aye.
Carl Bischoff,
Aye.
and Bill Vines.
Aye.
And Dave McLaughlin, aye. Did I voted on the first one, right? Yeah, you got my vote on that one. Okay, Mr. Larkin, thank you. So
Thank you.
we will look, you will be able to pick up your order of conditions by the end of the week, and we will look for a revised landscape plan without the pavilion in it.
Mr. McLaughlin,
Yes, ma'am.
I have one more. I'm sorry.
Is this
But when,
Mr. Rivard? Is
what?
this Mr. Rivard?
It is,
Okay.
again, you know
No,
my
no,
voice.
no. I just want to make sure the record knows who it is.
Okay. When Mr. Larkin raises number 30, that's within 3 feet of my boundary line. He and I have an agreement to meet and talk about the conditions of raising several of the houses and outbuildings. Because I don't think he could, I just wanted to hear from him. Do you think you can take that down without coming onto my property, or will that be part of our discussion when we meet?
Well, we have to get a demo permit from the building department still, so we were going to meet and discuss that with the building inspector on site.
Okay, you and I, right? I'll be there. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that was going to be included, because we talked about number 24, but we didn't talk about this one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is a notice of intent, reopen for 140 Westford Street drainage ditch. Ms. Papadopoulos, does this keep coming back to you?
There's a legal ad.
Yeah, but does this keep coming back
There's a
to
legal
us
ad.
from DEP?
Yep.
Chris, do you want to read this, Chris?
Sure, Dave. The legal notice under provisions of Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a virtual public meeting for a notice of intent filed by Christina Papadopoulos. The applicant wishes to perform maintenance to a drainage ditch that runs from 140 Westford Street to 36 Abbott Lane. Work will take place within 100 feet of a wetland.
Okay, Ms. Papadopoulos, you can answer my question now. Do we keep getting questions from DEP because they don't know what they want us to do?
Each of these applications is slightly different, and so the way I need to approach it seems to keep changing. And it also depends on who's reviewing it. So this notice of intent was reviewed by a different person than the previous notice of intent was.
So you have to look forward to you have to look forward to this, huh?
It's okay. It's a learning experience, and that's fine.
All right.
No problem. I want to make sure everything is done,
of course.
It's supposed to be done.
So what is it that they would like you to do that's different?
So I called her last week, and Katie Garten also joined, and looks like she really just wanted to make a point that it's not technically a ditch, it's technically an intermittent stream. And what we're technically doing is not, there's no permanent or temporary alteration to the bank of this intermittent stream. And she wanted me to revise the application to reflect that.
Ah, okay. And that's that's the picture you attached.
Right. So
that's the intermittent stream
hasn't changed, but the way that we're permitting it sort of has. Katie, is that right? Is that pretty much it?
That's right. None of the work has changed. It's all the same. It's just some of the numbers in the notice of intent need to change a little bit to not be so scary to DEP.
I was putting huge numbers of alteration alteration. My numbers were huge, and apparently she's saying because I'm not changing the characteristics of it, there's actually no alteration. So
Christina, I take it no ditch is actually going to be dug out.
No, we're not digging any ditches.
Right.
Nope.
It's just you're going to clean out this place so water can flow.
Wherever there's yard waste or fallen trees within this ditch intermittent stream, we're allowed to remove that material.
Very good. And this country doesn't think we have enough bureaucracy. Questions?
It's okay.
Chris Garahan?
Dave, my computer system is about to go down for about 3 minutes, so I will be back, but it's going down.
We'll talk slower.
Thanks. I'll be back.
Okay. Mark Gibbs?
Christina, if you said you're not going to be doing any changes of profiles in those ditches, waste has been sitting on there for years, turns to loam. Is that something that's going to have to be just raked out, or you don't touch it?
So if there's yard waste and it's impeding the flow, then it will get raked out. So the idea is we're kind of bringing back the natural shape of the ditch and exposing it to air and sun, and so it'll, you know, reestablish itself naturally. And we're removing the stuff that the people have, you know, inadvertently placed, you know, in.
That's all. I wasn't sure on the clarification of that. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
DEP kind of called it, yeah. DEP kind of called it a restoration in a way, because you're kind of restoring the integrity of the drainage system.
Right.
So it's more of a, honestly, if I knew all this, I would have let it go through as an RDA, because it's basically DEP said it's the commission's discretion if there's any impact. So if I had known that, I would have said file RDAs, because then we can say, no, they're not going to impact this, because we know she's telling us what they're doing.
And now you know.
Now I know. We will go through as RDAs.
John Swenson, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions on this. I think it's pretty cut and dry.
Okay, Carl?
All good.
Billy Vines?
I'm good.
Any comments or questions from the audience? One of the things I think we're going to see as Christina...
we have a question.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Tony, how are you?
Dave, how are you? Good to see you guys.
You're still working, huh?
I'm still working.
So those of you who don't know, Tony used to be on the Conservation Commission. A good member,
Long time ago. Well, thanks for the good words. So I have a few questions.
He's going to ask us technical questions we may not be able to answer. That's the problem.
Yeah, no, not really. First of all, thanks to the commission for reopening this to give the abutters a chance to hear it and to participate. And secondly, generally, I'm clearly in support of this project. I think cleaning the intermittent stream is probably a good thing for everybody in the neighborhoods where they're affected by runoff. But just a few questions, one of which was in the report that accompanied the notice. There was a reference to some historical plans that indicated easements along the stream or the ditch, whatever you want to call it. Personally, I'm not aware of any such easements that have been taken on private property for the ditch or the intermittent stream itself. So if those plans could be made available, that would be of interest to me. I've researched my deed a number of times and never found any reference to any easement. So I think that's just important for me to understand what the kind of the property right aspect of that is.
Christina, do you have that information that you could share with him?
So Tony, do you mind reminding me what street you live on?
Long Meadow Road.
You're on Long Meadow? Okay.
Yep, number 6.
Number 6. Okay. So diagonally behind you is that vacant lot, right, that the town owns?
Not behind me.
On Bentley?
No, that's actually not adjacent to my property, but it's between Mr. Brigham and the Kruglax, yes. So it's more behind number.
Yeah, diagonally 8. Sort of to the next to,
right.
Yeah. So that one is really the closest one to your property that kind of shows that there clearly is some kind of drainage way there. And then when you look at the historic, the subdivision plans for Bentley, there's the ditch that is shown through the subdivision. And I couldn't find the plans for Long Meadow that showed where everything was originally, laid out. However, just the fact that it is receiving runoff from the street and it is directed in that way through the culverts and through the drainage pipes means that the town is still responsible for maintaining the flow of water in that path. So that's, although there isn't technically an easement per se in your yard, that's still the DPW's responsibility to take care of it.
Yeah, we can respectfully disagree on that, but that's really not the matter. So I'm not aware that there's any easement, and it would be interesting or helpful if there was some kind of language that could be provided on how the DPW takes, responsibility and or ability to maintain that. But that's, again, I support the project, and I think that, it's too bad that homeowners don't keep the area of the drainage ditch clear, kind of on their own. But any information that you have on that would be helpful, just historically and going forward. A general question, what time of year do you think the work will actually be done, performed?
That is a good question. I actually have not posed the question again to the DPW because we were anticipating this to be much done much sooner. But I'm thinking probably not until the summertime. They'll probably wait until it dries up a little bit more. This spring is, it's a little bit too wet for them to be working out there. But I don't actually have a solid time frame.
Okay. And the notice does indicate that property owners will be notified before DPW comes on the property to do any cleaning. So is that going to happen just before, or a week before, or what do you think that notification would be?
Usually it's, we're here, we're in your neighborhood, knock, knock, we're coming back.
So
there's not usually a whole lot of notice. I mean, if you think that you need more notice, I can be sure to tell them that, to give the homeowners like a week notice or something.
Yeah, that would be reasonable.
Okay.
And that would be okay with me, but I think a week is fine. Not that it's an issue, but in our particular case, it cuts right diagonally through the backyard. So I'm just interested in getting some heads up when they're going to be back there. Because I also understand
and in your
that
case, I'm sorry, but in your case, if you're actually taking care of it, then there probably isn't much that we really need to do anyway.
Right. But it does say that any debris will be kind of dragged along the brook or taken through the brook. And I just would like to be aware of how that's all going to take place or when, just so that I know, that's all.
Okay.
So a week is fine. That's acceptable to me.
Sure.
And then there was mention of tree cutting or limbing that may have to be done. And I was concerned that and I don't want to speak on behalf of anybody else, but I would like to be notified before anything's cut in the backyard, just so that there can be some general agreement or understanding.
Okay, that seems fair.
Okay. And I think that was it. So those are the questions that I have, David.
Hey, Tony.
And I appreciate the opportunity.
Good to see you.
Same here. Thanks, Christina.
Christina, generally speaking, is most of this work throughout the town, as you're beginning to start it and as you're beginning to evaluate it, is it created by yard waste?
It's mostly yard waste, also road runoff, roadside sand, I guess I would say. And the other piece of it is we have some very large downed trees that, are getting in the way of stuff.
Could we, or should we, would it be beneficial if we tried to educate the town a bit more to try and keep, we always tell them, don't put yard waste in the wetlands. And of course, these ditches are technically wetlands. Here's a good example of why people shouldn't do that. But chances are they don't know that, right? And maybe we should think about some way to do between you guys and us, do some education on a regular basis. Maybe, for example, does Paul still put out his quarterly newsletter? I don't know. But if he does, maybe once a year we could have a paragraph about yard waste, and to the extent that people read it and adhered to it, it might be helpful.
Yeah, we do it when we do the stormwater brochures. We always have a paragraph in
Okay.
there about yard waste.
Well, maybe we could,
and dog waste, picking up after
maybe
your
we
pets.
could use, maybe we could use what you guys write and
Mhm.
just ask Paul to put it in the town newsletter as well.
Sure.
Okay, good. I'll follow up on
I
that.
like that idea.
Next
Thank you.
item on the, okay, you need a motion on this, right?
It's
We-
already technically approved. You guys actually already signed the.
Right. Okay, so
form.
you don't need another motion. So the next is, and I take it that's true for the next one as well. Is that correct? The next one is
Yeah.
272 Old Westford Road.
Yeah,
Is
we
this the
still-
same situation, Christina?
So for this one, it is exactly the same situation. We
There
had
is a
the same,
legal
we had a
ad.
conversation with her
There-
about it.
There's a
Okay, hold
legal
on.
ad. Hold on.
Chris, are you back on?
I'm ready. Yeah, Dave, ready.
You got your legal ad?
Yep, got it here. Yep. Under the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a virtual public meeting. For a notice of intent filed by Christina Papadopoulos, the applicant wishes to perform maintenance to the drainage ditch that runs from 272 Old Westford Road to 4 Thomas Drive. Work will take place with 100 feet of wetland.
Okay, Christina.
Yes, so I had a conversation with Mass DEP again about this one. The same lady reviewed this one as the previous one. So she had the same perspective that this would be technically an intermittent stream and that the bank is not going to be there will be no alteration to the bank and no alteration to the bordering vegetated wetland based on the type of work that we're doing. We're just raking surface debris and removing it. We're, removing extra, downed trees, anything that is impeding the flow of water. And there's no need for any extra seeding or planting or anything like that. So we did the same thing for this one and resubmit
Good.
it.
Okay. Any questions? All right, this one does not need a vote either. Is that
But
correct?
there is a resident on, I'm not sure if they have any questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I see the Old Westford Road address at the bottom.
Is there does someone who's in a butter want to say something?
This is 282 Old Westford Road. No additional comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So
Just
the
want to make sure.
All right, next one is 31 Amble Road, and there is a notice on this one, correct, Chris?
Yeah, well, I'll do the notice in this one. Under provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a virtual public meeting. For notice of intent filed by Christina Papadopoulos, the applicant wishes to perform maintenance to the drainage ditch that runs from 31 Amble Road to 300 Pine Hill Road. Work will take place within 100 feet of a wetland resource.
Okay, Christina. This is a
Thank
big
you.
one. This is a long one.
So this is similar to the other projects that the DPW would like to perform, as we would like to maintain what we thought was a ditch. In the process of the application, it was reviewed by DEP, and her comments, this was a different reviewer from DEP, but her comments were that this is determined to be a perennial stream. And so therefore, our original scope actually has changed because we are not allowed to remove any downed trees or naturally, if leaves that have fallen naturally, anything that is naturally occurring, we cannot remove. And so we respect that, and that is not our plan. What we do plan to do, however, is to remove yard waste and sediment that is accumulated, from the roads at the end of each of the culverts, and so restoring just the natural flow of water. So she wanted me to show it's a perennial stream bank. There is no alteration. The bordering vegetated wetland, there will be no alteration. It's land underwater. There is no alteration. However, there's replacement for land under water, because if we do remove, if we have any scarring or scraping of any material at the bottom of the perennial stream, we'll need to replace it. That is a very small amount. It's only about 30 square feet. And we have also riverfront alteration, which is going to be 0 square feet of riverfront alteration.
Does this stream go through Parleys and Misty Meadows?
No.
No. Okay. Good. Any questions, guys? Chris Garahan? Mark Gibbs?
Nothing.
John Swenson?
I don't have anything on it.
Carl Bischoff?
Nope.
Billy Vines?
No.
And I have none. This needs a motion to approve?
Wait, Dave,
Yep.
we have to put some special conditions per DEP. They would like to see.
Put us on video.
They would like to see that the agent, myself, be notified prior to the start of each section to go out and just make sure that the scope that's approved is actually being done. They would like a condition stating that if conditions are too wet, that work is to be held off on until conditions are favorable. And I think Christina, was she talking about some kind of a backup plan for what was refreshing?
Instead of what you said, so let's see. I'm just going to read it because I might mess up. It is preferable that the work be done during periods where the flow is either not present or very low. If the stream is not dry when we're clearing the debris, the flow will be diverted away from the debris with sandbags like a cofferdam, and the debris will be cleared out without needing any bypass or dewatering due to the small size of the stream.
Wow.
Yes.
How does that sound?
This is going to be a bigger project than you expected.
That's an if situation, correct?
That's an if.
Yeah.
She wanted an if because we're going to try and go when it's dry, but it's a perennial stream, so there might be some trickle down there, when we're working. I don't know.
Well, if it's a perennial stream, there's going to be a trickle down there.
I was there, so I didn't know it was a perennial stream because I was there in October taking pictures of it, and it was dry.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't think this was perennial.
So we need a motion to approve this project with 3 special conditions as described by Ms. Girton.
I think there might be in a butter.
Yeah, well,
and how about do we need to add anything about hand tools or?
Yeah, the same conditions for the others about the hand tools and the notice to the residents, and I think that was, so the conditions that were on the previous ones will go in there too, along with what you just read.
So there's someone in the audience, sir, ma'am or sir, do you want to say something? And can I have your name and address, please?
Yeah, this is Ed and Cindy Atchison at 31 Amble Road. The questions are, so it looks like rather than the entire ditch or stream, whatever it's called now, it's going to be focused on the culvert that feeds that.
So that's where the majority of the work is going to be concentrated on. However, we plan to walk the stream/ditch, and if there is accumulation of yard waste, then it will be removed.
Okay. And so the only access you'll be doing is walking up and down that area. You won't be going like through side yards and things like that.
We might need to go through side yards. There's a couple outfalls, maybe a couple drains that might outlet into the stream that we might need to, walk along those and look at those.
At an earlier hearing, sir, I heard Ms. Papadopoulos say DPW would knock on doors when they were going to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
To let you know they're in the area.
Yep. So we'll let you know when we're in the area. And if there is an accumulation of debris or behind a certain house, then the truck might possibly park near it so that it can haul the debris to the truck, without having to walk as far, just out of a pure, simplicity of work.
Yeah, as long as it's not heavy equipment.
There won't be heavy equipment, no.
No, DEP won't allow that, really.
Right.
Anything else, sir or ma'am?
No, thank you.
Very good.
Okay,
So
thank
there
you.
was, we're in the process of entertaining a motion to approve this with 3 special conditions. You all remember what they were? Can I have such a motion? Did Chris?
Dave, I'll make the motion that we approve the order of conditions with those special 3 conditions that were identified that DEP wanted us to add, as well as the provision that we'd have prior notice to the abutters that DPW was going to do the work, so they're aware of what was going to happen.
Good.
And,
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Billy Vines. Any further discussion? All in favor? Chris Garahan?
Aye.
Mark Gibbs?
Aye.
John Swenson?
Aye.
Carl Bischoff?
Aye.
Bill Vines?
Aye.
Dave McLaughlin? Aye. Thank you. Okay. Next item is
Thank you.
this is Katie Girton. Somebody wants to use Red Wing Farm.
Yep, they don't want to use it till September 4th for a wedding. And it'll be
They're hoping they can have the wedding in September. Right?
yeah, so obviously it's going to be based on whatever's going on with COVID. They're expecting 40 to 50 people. Saturday, 1 to 5 p.m. And they'll need a porta potty and like a tent and chairs.
Is this
So-
all in front of the stream?
In front of the stream, wherever they have weddings. I don't know where they don't they do, they've done them there before, right?
Between the stream and the road, it's where it's what's known as the butterfly garden is, I believe, usually.
That's right.
That's where most people want to have it. But they're going to have a tent and they're going to have a reception as well?
Yes, from 1 to 5, so it's a 4-hour thing.
Big deal. We don't charge them, do we?
No, we don't charge.
Oh, okay. And of course they will clean up afterwards. Are they planning to have a fire? Do you
No
know?
fires.
No fire. Okay. Questions or comments? Chris Garahan?
I'm okay with it, Dave.
Mark Gibbs?
No, that's fine. I'm glad people are using it.
I'm glad people are getting married. John Swenson?
I have no questions.
Actually, I've seen some very nice wedding pictures taken out there over the years. It's a nice place to have they usually have groups standing up against the fence or around the butterfly garden.
Hey, there's an idea to renew your vows up there.
What vows? Carl Bischoff?
My only question is, are we allowing any other access for other people, or are we excluding everyone else from the site?
They did not ask for that.
Nope,
Okay.
it's still open. The reservation will still be open to the public.
How, do you know how they're gonna park? I'm assuming they're
It's not
10,
the
20,
wedding,
30.
not the wedding scene.
Sorry?
Is park?
I didn't hear.
You know how many people are attending this gala?
She said,
Well, I mean, Byham School's right around the
she
corner,
said
so,
probably 40.
yeah.
So you're right. So our parking lot's not big enough. They'll have to use Byham School.
Fine, yeah.
Right.
I hope
That's fine.
they must know that. Okay.
That's fine. I'm good.
Billy Vines?
Aye.
Aye, and Dave McLaughlin and aye. Good. Anything else, Katie?
Nope, that's all I have.
Carl, you want to give us an update on
That's fine.
any land management issues? Carl? Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Sorry, yeah. Yeah, sorry. So I am taking the Conservation Commission training offered by the MACC, and I'm finding it to be quite helpful and quite good. So just to let you guys know, I'm doing that. The Warren Pole property, we did get approval on the 17th of February. So this was the night after our last meeting for funding from the CPC to move forward for the warrant article at town meeting in April for the parking and driveway work by the DPW at 95 Boston Road. So that will be on the town meeting warrant.
How much money?
$30,000. At the next Conservation Commission meeting, I'll present the budget to all of you because we really should approve the monies that are going to be spent. And you haven't seen the details. The budget is about, excuse me, Carl, the budget's about $55,000. 30 grand from CPC, 22 grand comes from the Wright Reservation Trust, which we'll talk about. And then there's a small amount coming from the Conservation Commission itself. But we'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting on the 16th. Carl, I'm sorry.
Yep, no, that's fine. I was just going to also mention that you're working on getting the trust, I guess, getting access to the trust fund from Wright with the I guess the town treasurer and the town council and Paul Cohen. I'm not exactly sure, but I know you're working that so we can get access to that. I have started putting together a letter for abutters to the Wright Reservation in that neighborhood for the work that we're going to be doing there. I'll share that with the rest of the group when I have something ready. And I know, Dave, you've been in contact with Hannah Barca about doing the kiosks, the 2 kiosks for the site. I also traded emails with Becky Warren on doing interpretive displays for the site, and she's enthusiastic, and we'll probably have a small group of people working that. The interpretive displays will be both the history of the site, family farming history, as well as some of the nature. So we may have 2, 3, 4 kind of displays. We'll work that out and figure it out. And we are working slowly but surely on the land, the conservation restriction with the Land Conservation Trust and Town Council. And so we're trying to get that moving along. That's it for Warren Poll. I don't really have any other updates on any other sites. I was a little curious last night after the wind that we all had last night if we had any sites losing trees and cross trails, but I haven't seen anything. I didn't get out there today, but haven't heard anything. That's all I
Okay,
got.
just to add on the Warren Poll thing, we'll present you a full budget because one of the things that the commission should do is to agree as to what funds will be spent in total, what funds will be spent on individual projects within the total, and what the source of the funding is to make sure we all agree. I mean, this is for example, this will be the first time we're taking money out of the Wright Reservation Trust Fund, which is now at $50,000. In the 60 odd years since the trust was set up, no one's ever taken any money out of it. The trust purpose is to provide capital improvements and operating expenses for the maintenance of Wright Reservation. In the event that there is no projects for money to be spent on, the funds can be used for general conservation matters in the town of Chelmsford. So what Carl and I and what we've looked at, and we told you, we think that we need two smaller parking lots, one at Wright Reservation for a back entrance to Warren and one off of Boston Road to kind of split the traffic around the site. So using Wright Reservation Trust money would improve the use of the Wright Reservation itself. But we'll show you that. A couple other things that Carl and I have been talking about is, some of you remember we did some forest thinning at Thanksgiving Forest a number of years ago. And if you walk through our reservations, there are a number, if not all of our reservations, that need some better forestry management. So we're going to try to talk to somebody about how we go about doing that. It's a big project. It could be expensive. At the case of Thanksgiving Forest, we were paid enough money, I think, to pay the bill for the forestry guy that came in. So we're going to take a look at doing that as a standing project. And then the other one is to take a look at right reservation in more depth. You may remember 10 odd years ago, an arborist came in and actually did an inventory and an evaluation of the trees that are in right reservation. Some of you may not be aware, but originally right reservation was a gardening shop like Mahoney's.
It was a nursery.
Nursery. So there are a lot of trees on that site. There are magnolias. There are a lot of different trees, and he identified them. And so one of the things we were thinking of doing, maybe with some right reservation money, is to try to clean up that site a bit and let those trees that have gone natural have a better survival rate. I think that, and we'll try to work out a timetable. The first thing that we need to do is to build the parking lot. To build the parking lot at Boston Road. That's contingent upon us getting town meeting of funds, which are approved last Monday, I think, in April. So the DPW won't be able to do that work probably until the summertime. We want to build that parking lot out first, and then take a look at the right reservation one. The reason the right reservation one will be second is because, remember, we have to build a trail in from the right reservation parking lot into the Warren Pole. So making some good progress in land management. And also we're going to do some GPS work on the trails this summer. We're going to try to get a new map for every reservation with trails on it. That hasn't been done for a long time.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Question, that little sliver of land at Wright Reservation that we got, that we're gonna be putting that trail on, is that part of Wright Reservations now, or that's a separate little piece of property?
Well, it was acquired, you're right, Billy, it was acquired separately last fall, and it should be it totally abuts Parker Road and Wright Reservation. So on my inventory of land, I've put it with Wright Reservation.
So if we're going to use funds from Wright Reservation, are we going to use?
The expansion of the parking lot is on Wright Reservation.
Right, but that trail is going to be on that little sliver.
The trail will probably be on that little sliver, and we haven't even started looking at that. You're right.
Okay, but can we can still use the money from Wright?
Yeah. Or we can even lay the trail around the back of that sliver. You recall that sliver is not very deep.
Right.
It's kind of long and thin like a cigar.
Right.
And since we're going to put new parking at Wright Reservation away from the road, further into the reservation, maybe the access to Warren Pole should be behind the parking and up on the hill. I don't know. We haven't really looked at it.
I was just curious if we were going to have any issues with using the funds if they're technically on a different property.
What's interesting, Billy, is the trust fund directors consist of the town manager, the town treasurer, and the town lawyer. I'm sorry, the conservation chairman, the town treasurer, and the town lawyer. So those are the three that make the decision. If the decision were wrong, the trust would have to be challenged. Not likely.
Okay. I don't see it as being an issue, but I just wanted to bring it up.
Right, and well, we'll make sure we paper it correctly so people so if anyone ever looks at the documents, they understand what happened.
Right. Okay, thanks.
That's it. Anything else?
Wrap.
Motion to adjourn. Next meeting is March 16th. The April meeting will have to be delayed because of town meeting. Katie, do you know?
Yeah.
Not town meeting, town election.
Yeah, I don't have any applications.
Okay, right, so there will not be conservation.
I don't see any applications coming in yet.
Okay, so the first Tuesday,
right,
or the second,
right,
first Tuesday in April will not be a meeting. The next meeting is March 16th.
We have a sidewalk, don't we?
Correct.
Yeah, if there's no snow on the ground, and we'll have to take a look at it like next Tuesday or Wednesday. If the snow's gone, we're going to have a site walk. If the snow's not gone, we'll have to postpone it.
Okay.
But that was tentatively approved for 9 o'clock or something like that?
9 o'clock on the 10th.
13th.
13th.
13th?
13th.
That's Saturday, right.
Yeah, a week-
13th.
A week from Saturday.
I'll let you know. I'll check with Katie and we'll decide if there's too much snow or not enough snow.
Enough snow.
Let it snow.
Motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, guys, and
Ciao.
Katie.
Good night.
Aye.
Good night.
Hi,
John.
everybody.